This is the RCA 9 EY31. Supposedly the first 45 record player RCA was able to get to the market in the summer of 1949. Of course, you know, they got hit with the LP without warning, and they had to scramble to get something on the market. This does not look like an RCA record player by any stretch of the imagination, but it had RCA's name on it, and it's got an RCA label on the bottom. So obviously it was RCA. Of course, you can look this up, and you open it up, and yes, it's a 45 RPM record player. Lid comes off, but you'll notice that it's not black and gold. It's sort of this maroon, speckledy, splotchy paint. The little 45 cap is shorter than normal. This changer was made by Crescent, not RCA. Crescent made RCA 45 changers from the early days on up into the 50s. This, to me, looks like a prototype that Crescent had made when RCA was developing the 45 changer back in the 40s. It's very similar to the Crescent changers that were made later, but not exactly identical. The motor mounts are different, and it doesn't have anything to damp the way the arm falls, because the arm falls very quickly. Never seen RCA build anything in an ugly wooden box. Never seen RCA use knobs like that, or this cane, or this woven whatever grill cloth. It's got the 3-tube amplifier, and you take the amp out, and it's obvious that it is RCA's design electrically. It's got RCA's 3-wire transformer for the speaker, which is a combination filter, choke, and output transformer. That's RCA. But the thing does not look like RCA. It's got the RCA cartridge, the RCA tone arm, but this was rushed to market in the summer of 49. By Christmas 49, they had the Bakelite models on the market. But this was, the quick to market was probably already tooled up. So these are supposedly fairly rare. I'm sure as soon as they got the pretty ones out, they quit making these. Nobody on the internet says a word about Crescent or the fact that Crescent made it, but I'm convinced that Crescent did make it. Oh, I had one more thing to point out when I had this thing out. I knew there was a reason. People who made product for other people in the electronics industry back then had a thing called the Radio Manufacturers Association, RMA, and they assigned an RMA model number to these things so that when they sold this same device under 50 different brand names, you didn't have to look up 50 different service manuals. You looked up the RMA number and got the schematic and the basics, no matter what company sold it or what variation it was. This has an RMA number. I don't recall seeing an RMA number on RCA stuff. Now, there may have been a number, but it's not something you would notice. But this and the amp both have an RMA number. This is an RA76 amplifier, which does show up in Sam's as an RCA amplifier. It's got RCA tubes, date coded 43rd week. Let me see here. 43rd week of 1949. All 3 tubes made the exact same time. That's not unusual. So I saw this on the internet, on eBay, and went, that's interesting. Did the research, and everybody says, yes, it's RCA's first. And this one's almost functional. I've done the motor, and a drive wheel, and a clean and lube, and
no, the wires are plugged in from it.
Oh, I did unplug them. I thought I left this plugged in.
Want to pull the power first?
Nah. I thought I'd left this assembled. I may have popped that plug out when I raised the lid. Oh yeah, the plug's loose. Yeah, the plug's not very tight. There we go. Yeah, the amp needs work.
Well, there's nothing plugged into the amp, right?
Right. And these cartridges are never any good. The needle on this one I don't like. It's pretty bad. I've got a record there that's expendable. A cracked copy of the Chordette's Born to Be With You. You see how the arm just drops like a rock?
Yeah.
The later production changers had a dash pot, a little piston and cylinder, so that the arm came down slowly. This one does not have the dash pot. This was obviously in an early version. This was the changer that was designed to change the record in one revolution. There's a spiral on the bottom of the turntable that acts as the cam to operate the mech, and it operates the change cycle in one revolution. Very quick. It's supposed to be the world's fastest record changer. So, I just think it's interesting that I think Crescent built this for RCA in a rush until RCA could get their own factory up and running. You have to admit, it looks the part of being an early production of something.
It probably has a good sound to it.
RCA's 3-tube amplifier was quite good. They spent some time on their engineering. That 3-wire transformer where you've got a single-ended output transformer normally just has a red and a blue wire. This has a brown wire. So a few windings on the transformer act as a filter choke, and also it kind of boosts the output of the transformer. That was an RCA thing. So it's got that. The circuitry is RCA, but you look at the capacitors it was built with, the brand RCA never used. So obviously they're schematic, they're circuit, but not the parts they would have used. I'm going to start a conspiracy theory with this. Doesn't matter. I thought this was neat, and the people that had it kept marking it down. I finally said, I give in, I'll take it. It was a little rough. Apparently these sat in closets someplace for a long time, and the bottoms got wet. This one, the bottom was a little peely. This was all peeling. I had a little Elmer's glue and a little patience. You can dress all that back on there so it looks presentable. The nice ones, this is brass plated and little stripe across there, the logo on the lid. This has had a rough life, but it still serves a purpose. I think it's a neat piece of history.
Well, thank you, Paul.
You're welcome.